My name's Josh Riddett. I'm the CEO and founder of Easy Crypto Hunter. We are the UK's largest provider of GPU mining hardware for the cryptocurrency industry. So, in a nutshell, we make money-making machines.
What the hell is crypto and where did it start?
I can pay you directly, and there's no need for a third party, be it a bank, a government, an organisation. We have Bitcoin as a payment mechanism, and things like Ravencoin, Zcash, Zencash, Tron.
So it's basically cash.
Oh, well, if these money-making machines are so profitable, why do you sell them?
Just Bitcoin mining, babe. Don't come in.
Well, I wouldn't be as rude as to say Ravencoin is a coin.
If I didn't have my other investments, I think I'd turn them off. Absolutely roasting.
So cash has never been used for a drug deal?
You can't sniff your coke through a Bitcoin. Fact. Fact.
This episode is sponsored by Rebel Leadership. To find out more, click the link in the description.
So I have experience in cryptocurrency. I invested in Ether in 2017 and I was really, really boring with it. What I did was I invested £35,000 of my own money into Ether, and I set myself a strict rule that was as soon as it hit 50,000 in value, I was going to withdraw all my funds. And I achieved that in 9 weeks. So in 9 weeks, I made 15,000 return. And that was it. It was a quick in and out strategy. And then I thought it was something I'd be interested in looking at again in the future. And then that's when I was introduced to you. You were described to me as the Steve Jobs or Elon Musk, future Steve Jobs. And it really interested me. I saw a lot of your stuff. And then obviously we met up, got in touch through a mutual friend. And I invested in some of the stuff that you do. So here is Josh.
Hello. I'm not quite sure I'd go as far to say Elon Musk or Steve Jobs. I certainly wish I had their bank balances. That would be nice. But yeah, so we met through a mutual friend, and ultimately I own Easy Crypto Hunter. So we're one of the UK's largest producer of the physical mining equipment. So we actually build stuff and we actually sell physical machines basically, and that's obviously how we met, and then obviously led us to where we are today.
So this is going to sound a bit strange now. I imagine, because even though I've actually invested in cryptocurrency before, I've got a little basic understanding, and now we've had some of your machines for the last 7 or 8 months. It's quite confusing. So I'm going to call this section Crypto for Dummies. So first things first, what the hell is crypto and where did it start?
So a lot of people ask us this kind of question as to kind of where the hell did it all come from, what's it all about? And fundamentally, a lot of people now publicly are very transfixed on Bitcoin. That's the big one everyone's heard of, everyone talks about. But where we are today, Bitcoin's now existed for over 10 years. So loads of things have happened and there's so many misconceptions along the way. So probably the best way to answer that is probably to go back to where it all started. So probably around 2008, which was the big financial crash.
Okay.
So back then, obviously, the basic premise is that the banks had cocked up and publicly people had realized for the first time that they're doing things maybe they shouldn't be doing. And obviously we had the big recession. So as it goes, the story of Bitcoin, although some people may disagree, is that a group of computer programmers got together under the pseudonym of Satoshi Nakamoto. And they basically came up with this concept, which was quite simple, which is, why do we need a bank or a third party in order for 2 different people to pay each other? So if I was to buy something from you, or as you bought your equipment off me, why do we need to trust Santander or NatWest to swap that money between us? Why is there not a way in which we can just do that ourselves?
Yeah.
So that was kind of where it all came around, and Bitcoin was ultimately designed to create a mechanism where I can pay you directly and there's no need for a third party, be it a bank, a government, an organisation, to effectively swap that between us. It's a direct thing and it cuts that third person out. That's the whole premise of what this technology then became.
So it's basically cash. A digital version of cash?
Kind of, yeah. That was its first in conception. It was exactly that, a digital cash. So the same way I could give you cash now and no one else needs to get involved, this was an online version of that same process. Because up until then, and still the majority today, it requires a bank, a government, an investment house, a third party to do that transaction. So this is where blockchain technology was then created to kind of be the cool underlying technology behind all this stuff.
So what is blockchain technology then?
So blockchain technology really it's much more simple than people want to care for. It's simply just blocks of information, critically information and not money. That's an interesting point to define that we'll explain. It's blocks of information that are all linked together with effectively a digital chain. So lots of blocks of information, and they all nudge together. If you break it down in its absolute rawest, most simple form, blockchain is a new type of technology which we've digitized human trust.
Yeah.
We've fundamentally kind of gone, people suck. You can lie, I can lie, everything can, the banks can do this and everyone can do that. What if there was a way in which we could remove human error from a transactional process?
Yeah.
So Bitcoin was the first example because that was money. So the way the blockchain works for Bitcoin is, instead of there being a bank that swaps the money between us, the blockchain, it kind of operates a little bit like a big Excel sheet or a big spreadsheet that everyone can see.
Yeah.
But once a record has been put on there, it can never be changed.
Okay.
So you can never say that money didn't go here, that money didn't go there. So if I sent you 1 Bitcoin, the whole Bitcoin blockchain would publicly declare that this address sent this much coin to that address, and it's stamped forever. So one of the conceptions of Bitcoin, misconceptions rather, is that it's this anonymous, crazy currency and you can just make money disappear. The reality of it is it's one of the most traceable data records we've ever had. Therefore, removing the banks, removing the governments, but a physical process has taken place to mean that is a transfer of information stamped forever.
So take money out of it then and say Bitcoin. Could blockchain technology be used for other things like updated medical records or insurance claims?
This is exactly where it starts to get really exciting, yeah. So the best way to kind of think about it is a little bit like, the internet. So if you imagine the internet as the cool underlying technology, and on top of that, we've got eBay, Amazon, Microsoft, Facebook.
Yeah.
We wouldn't say that Facebook is the internet. I mean, it might be for a lot of people, but we know it's just using that technology. The same way for the blockchain, that's the cool underlying technology. And on top of that same tech, we have Bitcoin as a payment mechanism, and things like Ravencoin, Zcash, Zencash, Tron. All different businesses performing different business cases, medic chain, medical information. And that's fundamentally the difference. There's so much more to it than people realize.
Most people will have heard of Bitcoin,
yeah,
I imagine, because obviously it was huge. It's in the news last sort of 2, 3, 4 years. But what are altcoins? Because I've heard them called shitcoins. Is that what you'd call Ravencoin and those types of coins? Would they be?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't be as rude as to say Ravencoin is a shitcoin, but yeah, by definition, yeah, you're correct. So an altcoin is exactly that, an alternative coin. So technically speaking, an altcoin is any coin that is not Bitcoin.
Right.
So Bitcoin was the first cryptocurrency. Yeah. All the rest of them have inherited the name cryptocurrencies just because Bitcoin was a currency, even though they should really be called crypto tokens. But yeah, commonly they're known as alternative coins, altcoins. So that's Ethereum, or pretty much any coin you've ever heard of that's not Bitcoin is an altcoin. Yeah.
So why is it rude to call them shitcoins?
So it's not, is the short answer. There are a lot of coins out there that are shit. So this kind of comes around again from this kind of big run in 2017 where there was a big craze called the ICO. So there was something called an ICO, an initial coin offering. So for those listeners that...
I've seen loads of those adverts.
Yeah.
Buy coins at like 1 pence, 2
exactly.
pence.
So effectively, when a company launches on the stock market, it has an IPO, an initial public offering, where people can buy the shares, in theory, a little bit cheaper than when they think the business is going to go. So in the crypto world, because the technology had advanced before regulation, all the guys in the crypto world came up with this cool new thing called an ICO, an initial coin offering, where they basically promised all of this, and you buy our coins at this price, and then they're going to be worth this because the business is going to do this.
With the next Bitcoin
getting now.
With the
next Bitcoin, Yeah. Now, of all of that, there was just a lot of hype and a lot of BS and a lot of promise. But that didn't stop that period of time raising more money than the venture capital sector combined for that period
it's exactly
of
the
time.
same, isn't it? It's like we've got a new startup.
Exactly that. But people were literally investing in thin air and a lot of times. Now, a lot of people made a hell of a lot of money because some of these coins did go on public exchanges and they did do very well. But the problem was ultimately they were backing technology, which, they were backing promises which weren't yet materialized. We are going to do this, we can do this. And a lot of companies legitimately had very good intentions. One of the best examples of an ICO would have been Ethereum. That was before it was a done thing. That's just how they raised a bit of money. And
That's what I invested in. Ether.
But all this conversation doesn't rotate around Ethereum. That was much earlier. But the ICO craze kind of comes from after, that year in 2017 when the prices started going mad. This is where all these ICOs came from. It was kind of 6 months of crazy. So the reason why people say, oh, the shit coins is because They're tiny little coins with smaller values of anything up to 20, 30 million generally. And fundamentally, they promise to do X, Y, Z, and the kind of quick wins, they're basically home runs. So you're either going to make a boatload of cash or you're going to lose it all the next day.
Yeah.
And the fundamental reason and the kind of logic behind that is, well, people overpromised stuff, couldn't deliver it. The teams were, sometimes there was even a coin, I can't quite remember its name, but there was a coin that was set up. It had a stupid name. It was something like "Don't invest in me" coin, or like "Pump and dump" coin, or like, it was specifically designed to kind of pull on the strings of this stupid mentality, and it raised millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Like, because even though it was designed for that, they were going to list on a public exchange. So it was just this bizarre thing where people were kind of raising huge amounts of money with zero regulation. And subsequently, the majority of shit coins, because they weren't backed in any kind of substance, fell by the wayside in exceptionally high numbers. It was something over 95% of people lost money if they'd have held for a certain period of time. It was really bad. So, you wouldn't put money into a stocks or a share that wasn't by an experienced team that did some dodgy stuff, had a rubbish product. So if you kind of apply the same logic to the cryptos that you're investing in, what's the product? What does it do? Why is it a business problem? What's it fixing? Is the technology good? Does it look like they've got a good marketing team and a good staff team, and where they're based? And you can check all this stuff publicly.
So as an investor, really think about cryptocurrencies and altcoins as you would any other investment into stocks and shares.
Absolutely, yeah.
How would someone go about, or how would a dummy go about buying a Bitcoin?
Well, the beauty of it is now, is as the market's developed over many, many years, there's loads and loads of ways of doing this now. There's probably at least 10, 12 different places to do it very easily in the UK. A lot of people, getting your money in is exceptionally easy. Getting your money out is also exceptionally easy. People go, okay, well, if it's real money, where can I spend it? Well, lots of big companies, Whole Foods just accepts full crypto payments. Lamborghini do, some BMW garages. Obviously, my company takes full crypto payments. There's lots and lots of avenues now, but even if a specific company doesn't accept it, there's now third parties where you can get a Bitcoin debit card. So you could top up your Bitcoin onto a card and go and spend it anywhere where there's a Visa application. So you can literally take it and go and buy drinks at the pub. So getting your money in and out now is really quite a simple process.
That was one of the things that actually attracted me to invest into your product and your business was you accept cryptocurrency as payment. So obviously you must believe in it enough to actually
you got to be able to fall on your own sword, right? This is the thing. If, I'm very aware the prices go up and down a lot, and we're very aware of that, as are our clients. So if we sell something for 10 grand and you pay me £10,000 of coin, I know it might be worth 5 grand the next week. And if I'm not prepared to do that, then how can I possibly stand here and say, I expect you to do the same thing?
And the other thing was as well, so a lot of the investments, and part of the reason why this whole thing came about, where I was going to invest in different things and sort of like let people see for themselves what investments did well and what investments don't do so well, was very few people that seem to be selling investment opportunities actually owned any of their own asset or believed in enough. But you actually have crypto mining rigs running, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The big kind of thing that we get, which is, I totally understand the criticism, but the irony of it is they go, oh, well, if these money-making machines are so profitable, why do you sell them? And I can kind of understand that as a fair point, but equally, I couldn't do what I did if I didn't believe in it. So a lot of the advices that we give our clients is based upon our own understanding. What are we mining this week? What are we doing here? How can we improve what we're doing? And we just want to help people get on board.
I've got a question. And so if I'm a normal person, why would I choose Bitcoin over normal money?
Now, if you believe in crypto for the future, it's a double-sided question, really. So if you believe in Bitcoin going where it's going to go in the future, and 100,000 plus Bitcoin, which I believe with every fiber of my being, to make that point clear, it would be stupid to spend the Bitcoin now, right? Because you'd effectively have then bought a machine for 10 times more down the line. But what you have to remember is Bitcoin's been around 10 years now. So there are a lot of people that 10 grand in cash today was literally 10 quid a few years ago. So there's a lot of Bitcoin millionaires out there that have put in a couple of £100 or a couple of £1,000 that now quite enjoy buying a new car, buying a house, buying a bit of equipment off what to them was a very small amount of money, because it's, just easy for them to do that.
Following that thought process through then, is it too late for people to get those kind of returns and invest in Bitcoin?
This is the question we get all the time. Absolutely, critically, categorically not. I really don't mince my words when I say this. I mean, blockchain technology, this technology, like I said, we found a technology that replaces third parties, banks, lawyers, solicitors. There's even people now testing this in really cool ways, like with Amazon, for example. Like at the moment, if you get, you order something off Amazon, usually comes the next day because Amazon's great. But what if it doesn't? You've still paid for that package. You've got to go back and forwards. There's technology now on the blockchain that you're only going to be paying for a parcel when it physically turns up at your house.
Right.
There's AXA, the insurance company, have a product at the moment called Fizzy, which is an automated flight compensation system. So if you go away with your family and you miss your plane by 3 hours or delayed or whatever, you're entitled to compensation. But what's the process of getting it back?
Yeah.
Argue, haggle on the phone, email, back and forth. Expensive for the company, pain in the ass for you.
Yeah.
With a blockchain, the second the plane's wheels don't leave on time, instantaneously paid. So you imagine this.
You can see how that could work with, say, like
wider
electricity.
businesses, electricity.
Turn your kettle on, get billed instantly.
Right.
Makes sense.
So you start, people get obsessed with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And Bitcoin is an incredible product and it's an incredible thing and it's just an amazing asset. But it's so much more than that. It's the underlying technology that people really should be getting excited about because that applies to business developments and business ecosystems that we can't even imagine. It really is going to completely modernize the way that we do business.
So in many ways then, would you say that Bitcoin's actually hindered blockchain and cryptocurrency and people's understanding of it because they've been blinded by the Bitcoin bubble?
It's a media thing, you know, so the media attention's been on Bitcoin because everyone goes, oh my goodness, it went from $1,000 to, $20,000. It's done 14,000% in a year. And then obviously it comes down a lot the year after and people go, oh, look at that, it's all bubbled. But Bitcoin in that year, if we take that short period of time where Bitcoin actually went crazy, Bitcoin was one of the worst performing coins.
Yeah.
By a long way, one of the worst performing coins. There was some of these smaller coins, these altcoins that did gargantuan leaps because their market caps are smaller and the percentages are bigger.
That's where I made my money. It was in that kind of bull run. It was my friends. Which is strange because, so I've been into stocks and shares, investing in property and stuff like that for a few years, but my friends that have got no kind of interest in that world were telling me, you want to get in on this? You want to get in on this? And I kept saying, no, it's bullshit. No, it's bullshit. No, it's bullshit. No, it's bullshit. To the point where I relented and I just said, look, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it properly, but I'm going to stick to my tried and tested rules, which, like I said, was I only go for little wins. It's like, I don't think of putting in £100 and making 10 grand back. Because to me, that seems very unrealistic.
Yeah, and you should.
I would put 10 grand in and make a grand back or 2 grand back because I find that's, in my mind, that's more sensible and it's more realistic. Yeah,
absolutely. And that's kind of where we are. We'll talk about all the different ways you can make money shortly, but mining being one of those. But there's so much money to be made in the sector. So people, think, for example, that last year when all the prices fell down from that high, people go, oh, you bought in Bitcoin, you lost loads of money, haha, you're an idiot, the bubble's popped.
But you still own the Bitcoin, don't you?
Well, this is the thing. One, you're still on the Bitcoin, and two, this is again what people, it really frustrates me when they look at it. So you go back to the Bitcoin price started going mad in about October, November 2017.
Yeah.
So a few months before that, Bitcoin was around about $1,000. By January, it was $20,000. It had gone mental. And then come, to where we hit a low this year, it's about $3,300, somewhere around that mark. So within an 18-month period, it had gone from, or 2-year period at least, it had gone from $1,000 to $20,000 and then back to the bottom, which was $3,200. As we film this today, we're up to over $10,000. Yeah. So if you look at, a lot of people like to go, haha, the bubble's pop, look at you, you're an idiot, you lost all your money.
It's like it was 1,000, now it's 10,000.
Right, but here's the thing, look at the yearly lows.
Yeah.
Bitcoin's been around 10 years. Virtually every single year for 10 years, the lows have increased by multiples.
Yeah.
So you could go, I bought $1,000 and I got to 20 and I lost all my money because I could have sold it. Well, actually, 2 years in, you've got 300%.
Yeah.
What other asset class on planet Earth has done that?
Yeah.
And this is sometimes where you've got to take a slightly longer term approach with it. We don't make any, notion of this being a get rich quick thing. Yes, there are periods in there where you can make obscene profit.
People will get rich quick from it because whenever there's,
it's
media
certainly
hype
possible.
and stuff like that.
Yeah. But the beauty of it is, if you believe in this fundamental blockchain technology, Bitcoin is simply just a demonstrator.
Yeah.
It's the OG, the original. It will kind of be the forerunner of everything. And if Bitcoin moves up, as will the other coin prices. But fundamentally, it's all these other companies that are doing loads of cool stuff with this technology. And I still believe the kind of Googles and the Microsofts within this technology space are still to be found or, still to kind of come to prominence. So if you believe in that fundamental space, the difference is now is if you put some money in 2017, it was a stab in the dark.
Yeah.
You didn't know what was happening. Now, 2 years later, we've got regulatory access coming from America. We've got custodial access. We've got tax laws. We've got regulations. We've got, Facebook coin. We've got JP Morgan coin. We've got all the payment centers. The commercial entities have started to adopt this technology in very, very serious ways.
Isn't that kind of making it more mainstream, making it more like real currency? Isn't that the kind of opposite of what it was designed to do?
This is ironically the dichotomy. So effectively what Bitcoin demonstrated was this kind of screw the bank, screw the system, we'll do it ourselves. That was the kind of ethos. But ironically within that technology that was created, there's just so many inherent advantages of that it's been adopted commercially for more mainstream things. So JP Morgan coin, for example, you can't buy it. Me and you can't go and get some of it. It's designed to settle international funds for various JP Morgan accounts. So it's an internal thing for them, but it fundamentally runs on a similar baseline technology.
The Facebook one's interesting then, because obviously they've got their fingers in all sorts of pies. I mean, you can watch a Netflix documentary about what they do with your data.
Yeah.
But the fact that they're going to do their own coin would suggest it's going to be around for the long haul.
Zuckerberg's a very smart fellow, and what he's effectively going to do is, if he plays his cards right, there's a very good chance overnight, down the line at least, he could genuinely become one of the world's biggest banks.
Suki! Om nom 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 nom.
Yeah.
And then he starts moving into financial products, and then how good's Facebook insurance going to be, because they know every goddamn detail about us.
Yeah.
And that's really the type of play that I think that organization is going to make down the line. So Libra is basically just effectively, they're saying it's a cryptocurrency. By definition, it's a little bit skew whiff, and I won't bore you with all the technicals, but it effectively will be a digital dollar that will be accepted for Facebook ads. It'll be affected by their partners like Uber and so on and so forth. So you will be able to have a digital dollar that you can use to spend in all your favorite places online, which will be a really interesting thing moving forward. But it's certainly going to bring a lot of attention to proper cryptocurrencies as people get more comfortable with that ecosystem.
What's the difference between a bull run and is it a bear run?
Yeah, so a bear market. So basically a bull run is just when the prices are moving northward very quickly, and a bear market is when we've had slumps. So technically speaking, the bull run was kind of October, November 2017 up to the beginning of 2018, and then all of last year, all of 2018, the market fell and fell and fell, and we had a bear market for pretty much 12 months till this April, and then now things have picked up quite nicely.
So at the moment now we're starting another bull run.
So it's looking that way. So since April this year, where Bitcoin kind of bottomed out around $3,000-$4,000, we're now up to $10,000. So if anyone would have bought Bitcoin in April, now we film this, we're in August, you'd have made pretty much up to 300% on your money, because we're actually up to $13,000.
So when you said there about the bull and bear run, do they run that off Bitcoin? Because you said it, and it makes me think of with stocks and shares. They say if America sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold. Is that the same with Bitcoin?
Exactly.
Is Bitcoin America?
Thing. Yeah. So Bitcoin is, the best way to think of Bitcoin is it's a bit like the oil market in US dollars.
Yeah.
Like everything is traded in US dollars. Everything in the crypto market is traded in Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin moves up a lot, so Bitcoin goes up 10%, typically the smaller coins will move up by a larger percentage. Just because there's less money in those coins, it takes less money to move them, but they generally follow each other. So,
I noticed the link with when it was Ether, it was if the Bitcoin price went up, the Ether price went up. It was almost like they were
joined. So Bitcoin is, so everything in the crypto world, so any of these crypto tokens, these 2,000 crypto tokens, they're all interchangeable. They're all interchangeable with Bitcoin. So you can take 100 Raven coin and turn it into this much Bitcoin, or vice versa with any of these coins. So Bitcoin is the lead in all of that. So if Bitcoin goes up, the rest generally do. If Bitcoin goes down, the rest usually do by a bigger percent. The only thing to point out there is that there's a lag time.
Yeah.
So for now, for example, Bitcoin's gone up to about $10,000 as it sits today. The other coins haven't really moved up that much since when they were about $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 to Bitcoin, because it's moved up so quickly. People are still a bit nervous as to, is that the new price level, or is it going to go up a bit, down a bit? So there's always a bit of a lag, but generally speaking, they've followed the others historically for many years now.
So shall we run through now some of the issues I see people mention online a lot, almost like either confirm or bust some
myths. Confirm or deny,
Yeah, so it's, we'll call this section the myth busting section. So the main one was about energy. So
Yeah.
Bitcoin uses too much energy and it's a waste of resources. And I read somewhere that if Bitcoin miners were a country, they would be the 61st most energy wasting country. That's not even the best way of saying it. In terms of energy, electric consumption.
Yeah. So it's a perfectly valid point, and we get this all the time, and they just go, we need to save the planet, we need to do all this good stuff. Why the hell are you just leaving all these machines running to process your imaginary money, right? You're stupid. There's a couple of ways to answer this question, and the bottom line is again, people focus on the wrong thing. So firstly, if you wanted to be a bit utopian about it, what is Bitcoin trying to do? It's trying to replace a lot of the banking systems, the monetary systems that we have. No one's making a fair comparison to how much energy they currently use. So how much money is the bank system using at the moment?
So the argument is it's the lesser of two evils.
Well, to some extent, that would be one way to do it. So no one complains about, look at you chopping down all them trees to make cash.
Next one I've got is Bitcoin is slow and not suitable for payments.
Yeah, Bitcoin is slow and not suitable for payments. So there is some truth in that. So Bitcoin, as we said before, the blocks of Bitcoin are every 10 minutes. So you're never going to get anything confirmed in less than 10-minute period. So it's kind of not practical for buying a coffee.
That's what I was going to say. Could I buy a round of drinks with
Bitcoin? So
no.
On the Bitcoin network itself, no. But with the third-party mechanisms, yes.
Yeah.
So you could get it on a Bitcoin debit card or whatever, and they do the swap in the background. However, there's something being developed called the Lightning Network, which basically has found a way to speed up the transactions by, technically it does something to the thing, but it's basically a quicker way to speed up Bitcoin. So
isn't that using a third party though? And that's
no,
kind
the Lightning Network is...
It's like using a bank to... You said about the Santander, the NatWest thing. If you're
using a third party there, then that is, again, this is the dichotomy of the market that we find ourselves
this is the maddest thing. Like, the more research I do, it's more like the very thing it says, this is what it does, or this is what it doesn't. It actually does the thing it says it doesn't.
Ultimately what it is the technology is incredible.
Yeah.
So it's being used by traditional institutions for their benefit. And ultimately, until more companies directly accept Bitcoin and more companies directly accept it and start using it, it will become its own bubble of payment. Yeah. So you'll be able to, so only literally last week, New Zealand completely regulated 100% salary for Bitcoin. No problem. You can choose, if you're in New Zealand, to get paid 100% legit in Bitcoin.
I read an article about a guy that gets paid in 100% in Bitcoin.
Yeah, and because you can now. So as people start getting paid in Bitcoin, as companies start accepting Bitcoin, then all these things will come into play. At the moment, we're in this weird middle ground where the technology is being used for a whole myriad of things, and it's a bit of a grey area.
On him, would you say he's crazy for getting his full salary in today's world in 100% cryptocurrency?
No, because all it does is open up the option.
Yeah.
So he's thinking Bitcoin's going to go up loads in value, so I'm earning 50 grand a year today. It's effectively going to be £500,000 in X period of time.
Yeah.
So that's his play. However, there's no need that you have to hold all that coin.
Yeah.
Why not go, you know what, I only need to live on £1,000 a month, so I'll sell £1,000 a month in today's money, use that as cash, and then I'll keep the rest.
Yeah.
So, this is one of the things that people go, they go, Bitcoin's 10 grand, I can't afford that. Well, you can, because you can buy a tenner's worth of Bitcoin. Because it's got 8 decimal points. So you've got flexibility there. So when people say, can I use it for payment? The reality of it is it's slow at the moment, but fundamentally, Bitcoin, even though it was designed as a payment, it's really going to find its place. There are other coins of this 2000 that are probably going to be better for day-to-day payments for Bitcoin.
What about transaction fees then? Is it expensive to pay for things in Bitcoin?
Well, the transaction fees vary. So it really depends upon a few variables at the moment as to how many miners are on the network.
Take PayPal then as an example, because a lot of people are used to using PayPal. Right, so how would it compare to, say, PayPal? Yeah, so
PayPal's roughly around 5%-ish, 3 to 5%, somewhere around that number. And Bitcoin, the transaction fees, they're a little bit complicated in the way that they work, but the difference is it doesn't necessarily scale with the more money that you move.
Right, okay.
So it can be a right pain in the ass to send 100 quid in Bitcoin, but sending 100 million is virtually the same. So only a couple of months ago, a really good example would be, over $200 million of Bitcoin got sent from one country to another, 0 exchange fees. Yeah. It was completed on the same day. No bankers, no international exchange fees, no people taking snips in the middle, and the whole transaction cost less than a tenner.
Yeah.
So it's really designed for, large amounts of money, large asset transfers. The fees are almost negligible.
What were they buying for that?
Well, just moving money between
different
different accounts.
Arms.
Yeah, well, who
Arms
knows?
and drugs.
Yeah, well, yeah, this is it. So, but again, people that try that, it's not as anonymous as people once think, because yeah, okay, those coins might move between two different places, but one, the fact that I know about it, the
That's
fact
what I
that
was
the
gonna
whole
say.
crypto knows about it,
Yeah.
because it's a public transaction, all that they have to do is watch that account and go, well, who's pulled out that money?
Yeah.
So it's not as now the infrastructure is starting to come around crypto, and there's really easy ways to get money in and money out. It's really not quite as hideable as the underground in which it started, when it was genuinely used for things.
So that makes me think
a bit
then.
dodgy.
So if people can see it and you know about that transaction, how secure is it? Like, is your crypto secure? I couldn't walk around with like, what would I have? Like a USB in my pocket? Or...
I literally have one in my pocket. Yeah.
So
yeah,
if that's your life savings.
Yeah. So So I have a nano ledger with me.
There's a spider there.
Spider.
Seen that?
Well, that's lovely. Look at that.
Yeah.
Hello.
Don't eat
He's
it.
trying to get my Bitcoin. So yeah, so people go, oh, you're crazy for having that in your pocket. What an idiot. What if you get mugged? Well, you won't be able to do anything with it.
But I can see why, especially people that don't understand it, because like the language that we're using, some of the jargon that we're using, it's hard to understand. If my money's in the bank, I think I'm insured up to like 85,000 or whatever it is.
85,000, yeah.
If I had 85 grand's worth of crypto in my pocket on a USB, I've lost my bank cards loads of times.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I've left it at the bar, all sorts of stuff.
This is how it works. So there's a device, there's different ways to store Bitcoin. So when it comes to the safety of Bitcoin, this is again something that's terribly misunderstood. We've all heard those stories. I think I did an interview actually, with that guy who lost his hard drive and was paying the council to try and find his hard drive because he had millions of pounds of Bitcoin on it when he threw his computer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was a guy in the UK and his girlfriend threw out his laptop. Because he left it Bitcoin mining and it was dead noisy and it was an old one, so she threw it out.
Just Bitcoin mining, babe. Don't come in.
Yeah. Nothing to see here. And so it's had something stupid like, I don't know, 30, 40 million of Bitcoin on it, something stupid. So he tried paying the local council to go and explore the tip to like get it back. Never found it. Really interesting guy to speak to. But so people go, oh, look, see, it's well unsecure. You wouldn't have had that in a bank. Oh, an idiot. But again, it's much more nuanced than that. So people go, oh, you had your Bitcoin on the website and the website got hacked. And again, people just don't really understand what they're talking about.
It can be hacked though, can't it?
No, this is the thing. So the Bitcoin network, the blockchain of Bitcoin has never been flawed.
Yeah.
And in order to make a false payment or to create coins or to say that something didn't happen between me and you, for example, you would have to have over 51% of global Bitcoin computational power to fool every other 49% machine.
Yeah.
So just by brute force, it's the safest, most secure data network we've had. Now the misconception comes in is because the underlying blockchain is super secure. If you then take a coin from there and stick it on a dodgy website and that dodgy website gets hacked, it's a little bit like saying, if you got your wallet nicked on the bus, you wouldn't say your bank account's been hacked.
Yeah, true.
So it's a similar type of thing. Like if you leave, your money on some dodgy website where it's vulnerable, then that's not the blockchain of Bitcoin being hacked. It's you were just an idiot.
So like user error, basically.
Right. A lot of it's user error. So there are ways in which you can keep that secure. So these devices are called cold storage devices. So you can physically take the coins off the blockchain and stick them off the internet effectively and put them in cold storage. So you can keep them on a physical USB stick like the one I have. And then you go, oh, what if you lose your USB stick? Well, whenever you get one of these devices, there's always a backup code. Yeah. So you keep the backup code and the device physically separate. And then if you lose one or the other, you can restore them.
In my when I was setting up a wallet, when I did the first trade into just cryptocurrency, Ether and Bitcoin, I think my code was something like 12 unrelated words or something mad like
either
that.
12 or 24 words.
I literally got no idea what those words are, and I was
Yeah.
supposed to write them down, but...
Yeah, well, that's it. So if you ever lost that key, for example, you're goosed.
Can I ask you about something that Donald Trump said?
Absolutely.
So he said that Bitcoin facilitates unlawful behaviours.
Yeah.
What do you think of that? So is Bitcoin for criminals?
Again,
He should know.
No comment. So interestingly, again, this question's always put at the crypto community, but then it's never given any context. So I'm like, okay, so cash has never been used for a drug deal? Right, so...
You can't sniff your coke through a Bitcoin.
Yeah, right, so...
Fact. Fact. Allegedly. Allegedly.
Allegedly. So so it's one of those things where ultimately, again, and it's nuanced. So look, when Bitcoin was first created in its first few years, there's no denying it was used for criminal activity. Because it was a bit more anonymous then, because the ecosystem wasn't as strong around it, and it was used for unlawful things.
Like dark web, unregulated
kind of went together.
Cash payments,
right?
I can see how they would go hand in hand.
Absolutely. And the reality of it is this is where you've got to have a frank and honest conversation about it. It's like saying, well, are there dodgy websites on the internet? Well, yeah. Is the internet bad? Well, no. Yeah. So it's again the same thing. So can people use this technology maliciously? Absolutely. And a spoon can be used maliciously. It's more about, it's not what the thing is, it's its intent. So when people say it's bad compared to what, when they're really comparing it to cash, which is completely untraceable to all extent, at least with Bitcoin and crypto, there is a digital transaction of everything that's going on there.
Okay.
So yes is the answer, but to what extent is really the question.
Right, okay, anything can be abused, kind of.
Right,
and second round. So the next one is Bitcoin is a bubble with no real value, and it was Warren Buffett. He doesn't fancy it.
Is it still rat poison?
Well, probably rat poison squared.
And
so, yeah.
I have got Warren Buffett's book on investing, and he does his papers every year to say what he's invested in. He has done pretty well, and he's likened it to the tulip fad, which obviously, if you look at the sort of numbers, tulips were worth loads, weren't they? And they dropped overnight. Yeah. So is he right or is he wrong?
So I'm not going to be the man that says Warren Buffett's wrong, because that would be a stupid thing to say on the internet. However, Warren Buffett has been very clear in saying that he simply doesn't invest things he doesn't properly understand.
Yeah.
And he's been very clear in saying that he doesn't understand blockchain and he doesn't understand crypto. Therefore, he's steered clear from it.
So I'm just following that process with it. And so anybody, and this is a lot of the stuff that we're doing on our YouTube channel, where we're doing we're investing in all different things. Yep. Would you say that sort of understanding and knowledge of the actual thing that you might be invested in is the best advice for anybody, and that's in any asset?
Yeah, full stop. It's one of those things. It's not almost like you need to know. So for example, most of my clients, as when I met yourself, you weren't a crypto expert.
No.
But you understood business. You understood what the numbers were. We could have an educated conversation about risks and the language. And, so most of my clients are pretty successful business owners. You don't necessarily need to know everything about it, but you need to at least know enough about it to come and find people, hopefully like me, where you can at least ask these type of questions to me and go, actually, Josh, what about this? What about that? What does that mean? Don't go throwing your kidneys at stuff that you don't understand. That's a stupid idea. And Warren, stays very clear of that because he's doing so well in other areas. But, equally, crypto and blockchain can be a bit confusing. There's so many miscommunications around it.
Do you think that's why then? So I am inundated on Instagram and Facebook with people almost preying on that sort of lack of knowledge, and I get offered stuff all the time that's promised me, I'll give you 1,000% returns, or I'll give you $100 per day for the next 180 days. Do you think that's why people fall?
Well,
potentially
people always want get rich quick, and the problem is with the crypto sector is people genuinely did get rich quick, and it wasn't because of any schemes or scams or anything. It was just effectively they bought shares which did exceptionally well in an exceptional short period of time. There wasn't a scam, there wasn't a thing, there wasn't, but there was people that literally bought £100 or something and could walk away with tens of thousands of pounds a few months later. That doesn't happen very often.
Do you think now though, so now that there are these hedge funds and investment funds getting involved and the proper major banks and it's more regulated, do you think now, because obviously they're linked with the media and insider trading stuff, do you think it's easy for them to now almost do a pump and dump strategy? They could flood the market, buy loads, pump up the value, then Joe blogs me and I'll say myself here, oh wow, Bitcoin's gone up to 20,000, let's put £500 in, and then it goes to £1,000 overnight. But really, they've sold all their Bitcoin at 20 grand to idiots like me.
Again,
Johnny come lately.
The question is does that happen today? That's it
happens in stocks and shares all the time.
That's another question altogether. Again, people know things. Insider trading is a big thing.
Yeah.
But realistically, again, this brings us to a really interesting point. So people just go, at the moment, as it stands today, as we film this, it is illegal for regulated funds, so pensions, hedge funds, proper institutional bodies, to invest in a non-regulated asset class. And as it stands today, Bitcoin is, at least in America, a non-regulated asset class.
In my mind, and this, call me a skeptic, because I'm skeptical about anything that's promised me, I don't think that the governments, banks, the system would allow Joe Bloggs to be able to buy something today and then overnight 60, 50, 60, 70% of the population become instant millionaires, because number one, that is not how the system is designed. We're meant to work, we're meant to be workers, so if we all become millionaires. So even if that did happen and we all became millionaires, I think they'd just use inflation. So then all of a sudden, $1 million would be worth £100.
This is where the argument gets really interesting. So, one, you're right, that's never going to happen, because even as we have this podcast now,
so all of a sudden, no one would turn up to work on Monday.
Even if this was going out to every person in the country, less than 1% are going to do anything.
Yeah.
No matter who I am, what I say, what I do, the results we've shown for our clients, no one's going to, some people are either going to invest or they're not. That's just the nature of people. Some people believe stuff, some people don't. Some people think it's too good to be true, some people don't. Some people can't be bothered to do the research that's required to make an educated, informed choice. That's fine, so not everyone's going to become rich overnight off this. As it stands today, it's less than 0.1% of the population that's involved in the crypto space.
I'm in a lucky position, and for me, I kind of see this as a gamble, and I'm willing to put some money in, and I can kind of absorb if this all goes wrong, and I know I'm lucky for that, and that's not, so I feel a bit more nervous or worried or sorry for some people that can't necessarily, and they are banking on this being, because what you're saying there is, sure, it might be worth £1 million, let's say the equivalent of £1 million, but what we're saying is by the time that comes around, that million might only be £10 in today's money.
That depends. That sounds preposterous to us in England and preposterous to people in America. It ain't preposterous to people in Venezuela.
Of course.
Right. So we have to understand that our economy is very delicately balanced since we moved away from the gold standard, where £10.
I was going to say it's about the petrodollar. I understand all these things.
Exactly.
I think sometimes people don't understand about the petrodollar and oil backing,
certain currencies
and the Federal Reserve Bank and stuff like that. I think if anyone's not ever seen that, they should Google or go on YouTube and watch the videos, because it's unbelievable. So I can see why Bitcoin cryptocurrencies have. Yeah,
it moves away from all of that.
Yeah.
There's only ever going to be 21 million Bitcoin.
Yeah.
That's it. Forever. Done. We've got another about 100 years of mining, and that's about it.
I know that, call me stupid or whatever, but why is it only 21 million? Why didn't they make it 25 million, 20 million? They just randomly picked the number?
Arbitrary number, yeah.
Can they not make more? Like the banks can print more notes.
Again, I'm not a computer geek. I think there's something technical about the way in which it's like the way it's programmed. 21 million is just a good number to kind of get to with the way it's all fractionalized. But 21 million is ultimately the way in which it's defined. So at the moment, we're around 17 million. People think we've lost up to 4 million in old computers and old things that are never going to circulate. We think there's about 13 to 14 million.
Some accounts will skip somewhere in there.
Yeah,
on that guy's hard drive.
That's on his skip. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the reality of it is Bitcoin is getting harder and harder to get every day. Next year, there's something called the halvening. So every 4 years, the thing that's very clever about all this proof of work mechanism is that the more machines go into mining the coin, the stronger the network gets, the faster the network gets, the better the network becomes, the more secure. But it also reduces the amount of coins each person's getting because they're all fighting for the same rewards.
Yeah.
So again, that's put a lot of northward pressure on the price because simple economics of supply and demand.
So we've done like a sort of a dual strategy. We put 10,000 into Ether, and then we've put 30,000 on 3 of their machines, and we ran them both together. And just as an instance, the Ether at its highest point has been 17,000, but that doesn't mean we've made 17,000 because we've not sold it.
Mm-hmm.
At its lowest point, it's been 4,000. So it's been very volatile when using that strategy, betting on one horse, as you would say.
Right, yeah.
And then obviously it has its peaks, has its troughs, and we've just kept hold of it. I think currently, as of today, it's about 9,000. Is that right? What's the...
Yeah,
about 9,000 on Ether at the moment. So how would the machines like sort of help that, or how are they different?
Yeah, so the difference is obviously, just as you said it there, if you buy a chunk of coins, you kind of back in one horse. We kind of liken the machines to kind of buying the whole racetrack. So unlike there, you're basically gambling on Ethereum itself doing well as a project.
Yeah.
Now it's very closely related to Bitcoin, and so it's one of the OGs, it's one of the originals. It will, inevitably it's a great coin and it will do well as the years go by. But all your eggs are in one basket, as it were. Whereas if you put that 10 grand, as it were, into a top end machine, you physically own that kit. So it's worth some good money. There's a lot of VAT deductions there, which you can't get from the investment if you buy the coins directly. But the difference there is that whatever coin is doing well at the time, you're able to switch between to mine.
Yeah.
So you can get a bit of this, a bit of that, a bit of something else. Now, these smaller coins are, as we discussed before, usually more volatile. So if Bitcoin moves up a lot, these will fluctuate a lot. So kind of the numbers that we've looked for you over the 9 months that we've been running, it kind of changes dependent upon the price of the coin. So at the peak this year, you've been up to about 30% return on investment in a 9-month period. At the moment, you're down to about 11% because that's kind of where the coins are at the moment. So between those kind of two numbers, you go, well, if you compare crypto mining to a traditional investment of, say, a property at 8% a year or whatever, that's kind of where you start to see its advantages. So.
This is the thing with myself. So I first started investing in property in 2011, and I've always bought property with my own money, put my money into it, either bought it by cash or got a buy-to-let mortgage. Not a no money down deal because I don't understand them. So I've done it like the traditional stupid way.
Yep.
I've worked hard, saved money up, put money in. And my personal opinion is property is as safe as houses. That's where the saying comes from. Because number one, I can touch it, see it, drive past it if I want to. But I always know if the shit hits the fan, I can sell the property. It's an asset that appreciates, whereas mining rigs, it's a depreciating asset. So obviously, as new graphics cards get built and stuff like that, they'll be worth, say, half the value in, I don't know, a year's time, 2 years' time, 3 years' time.
What we say to people is ultimately, you should never be thinking this is a quick win. It's not. We don't profess to be some get-rich-quick kind of thing. The returns are very, very healthy. And ultimately, if you believe in the future of blockchain, why would you not want a blockchain server? So it's kind of like saying, if you're being crude about it, again, I like to say sometimes we sell internet servers in 1995.
Yeah.
So as a thank you, as these companies grow, you can pick some nice coins. Now, that's not to say some of the coins you might mine might not work out, or there's some risks there. But fundamentally, as most of our clients are business customers, you can buy it, get your VAT back. You can put it through as a capital asset purchase. You can depreciate it year on year through the business, so it becomes very efficient as a business purchase. So all said and done, dependent upon the market, you can look at it in this period of time or this period of time, and the numbers do change a lot. What we say to people is you need to be thinking of this as a 2 to 3 year financial play. And if you look at the numbers retrospectively, it's always demonstrated to be one of the most profitable passive income mechanisms. But if you look at it in terms of this month or this week, then you might, one of our machines today might not be earning crazy money. It might be 100, 200 quid a month, right? It's not life-changing money. But as a comparative of percentage yield, if you have that 30 grand in the bank or blah, 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 it outweighs all of those by a furlong mile. So ultimately, it's just a case of being realistic with our clients and what to expect. But, there's a really, really nice upside generally in the crypto space, and having the ability to move to all these new coins and new projects and mine stuff when it comes out and get more coins and all the cool stuff you can do. It becomes a really nice diversification for a lot of people's portfolios.
So we've just mined Ravencoin.
Yes.
So why was that the strategy?
So you've been left on Ravencoin. Yeah. So we have emails that go out to all our clients every month to say what we're mining, when we're mining. So for example, you were mining, I think you were online about November, and you're still mining Ravencoin today. Ravencoin hasn't actually been the most profitable coin across all that period. So February the 8th, we sent out an email that was like, hey guys, you might want to change the grin. Give us a call if you want to know how to do it. We'll help you do it. So obviously it depends upon how much, for all these machines are kind of passive income, sometimes, to get the most out of them, it's important to kind of change to this, do a bit of that. Now, it's never very hands-on. You might change to 3 or 4 coins a year, but it's almost good to kind of, pay attention to your investments.
So ultimately, if we had changed the grin, our returns would have been
a little bit higher. Yeah, that's correct.
The biggest cost to what we've had has been electricity.
Yes.
That has been the biggest drain. That's pretty much the lion's share of any money that the machine's made out of. So would you say then that as a single investor that wants to buy 1, 2 or 3 machines and they're going to put them in their house or their office, it isn't necessarily as good an investment?
Again, it depends on the numbers. So for last year, for example, the whole market fell month on month on month. And we got into Ravencoin last April. We made that. We did a public video on Ravencoin last year. So for our clients who followed us and mined April last year, Raven did really, really, really well. So yes, we picked a good coin and we did our research on it and did well. But fundamentally, as it stands in your 9-month period today, your numbers actually look very similar to our clients then. It's just that obviously the way that we advise our clients to do it is not to sell your coins every day. You kind of want to keep those coins, keep bagging them up and exit at a price that you feel is acceptable. So equally, Raven coin over the year, the earlier you mine, you get more coins. And then as the price increases, you might have been earning a tenner a day in that first April, but then by the end of the year, that tenner a day is now 50 quid a day because the coins multiplied. So you do have to have some type of nuance with this and a slightly longer term approach. But if people are happy to take something that's going to be, like I say, a 2 to 3 year window, the opportunities are certainly
because we're only, we're 9 months in now.
Yeah.
So our electricity's been 1,200. In our Binance account, we have got 2,071. So we are probably running at about £110 per month.
Yeah.
Is what we're running at. And when I was comparing that to, I picked a like for like. So I've got a property in Warrington, which I put £30,000 down on. That is £600 a month in rent, and I take £400 a month out in costs. That's the mortgage, rent guarantee. Always keep 20% back for. That's doing about £150 a month profit. And the other one was stocks and shares, and that was my stocks and shares run about 7.6%. But then obviously there's the power of compound interest with my stocks and shares. That's a long-term play. If one of my family members said to me, like, now, what would you do with 30 grand? I would probably advise them property still. Am I wrong?
Ultimately, that's the reality of it is so, for example, there's loads of things I can say there. So that number would be different if you'd have been mining Grin since February.
Yeah.
So that would have been a bit bigger. Grin uses less power than Raven coin, so the electric cost would have been smaller. Fundamentally, like I said, we kind of worked out where you're at the moment on that basis, and you're around about 11%. So typically 8 to 12 is about property. Yeah. So if we could cut it right here, I'd just say, look, Mike, you're already in property. You're more comfortable in property. I'd agree with you. Go for property. But the difference is that what that 11% can become when the market starts to move.
Yeah. So really, as an investor, then you would say, don't put all your eggs in one basket.
No, absolutely not.
Diversify. Because I've read somewhere a lot of investors now are only committing 10% to crypto as a kind of
and I think that would be a fair allocation. I mean, fundamentally, it's an investment play and should be treated as such.
I've seen a lot of the rise of people where you can buy into sort of mining farms. So you were saying about £10,000. Right. So if I've got £150, I can buy a portion of the machine. Yeah. There's a big one in Germany, I know.
Yes.
Of. But that, to me, again, it feels a bit, you don't really own the asset. That's right, yeah. That feels scammy and looks a bit
so here's
entrepreneurish.
The thing.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. That to me, that screams that it's not right. Yeah, something doesn't feel right.
The thing is if those guys have already got their own equipment in situ, in a facility, and it's already made, they'd be running it for themselves to make more money.
Exactly.
The difference is people are then going to look at me and go, oh, Josh, that's what you're doing. Well, no, we physically manufacture the equipment. It's different. Those guys don't. They're just buying stuff from China, this ASIC Bitcoin stuff. So the difference is that you don't own the machine. So if the company goes snup, you got nothing. So if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, God forbid, and my company goes bump, every single one of my clients, the amount of money your machine is making is not connected to me or my business.
Yeah.
The whole blockchain space is what you're reliant on. Yeah. So it's a different thing. Whereas there, if that company went under, went bump, whatever, you own no equipment, you've got no guarantee, you've got no way to get your money back. And ultimately, you've got a fixed amount of power, which you'll be getting less and less, and you don't have the flexibility. So, with that smaller amount of money, I'd say, look, just buy 150 quid of Bitcoin. That's your safest option.
Yeah.
Bitcoin is very volatile, but it's the most stable of all the coins.
Yeah.
So, that would be the best way to use it.
Because that's how I look at it. Because I think, because the initial investment, and take the VAT out, say if I was just an individual, so it's like, say, 10,000, at the current rate, you're looking at 20 years to get your initial investment back, which is fucking bonkers,
which is crazy, yeah. And the reality of it is that's what it looks like in isolation.
Yeah.
But then it's a case of looking at where are those coins going to go and how does it work. So ultimately, your faith isn't based, the faith of the investment, if you have a property, is based on, well, I'm going to get tenants and I know the rent's this much, I know that, and there's a lot of fixed variables there.
Yeah.
So you're looking at 10 to 12 years really to get your money back on a rental on a property.
Yeah.
So when you start comparing this to other similar options, then you just go, okay, well, let's go back, say, 5 years in crypto. How much have the prices increased?
Yeah.
How much has all of that moved forward? And ultimately, even in a shorter period of time, like last year, if you back the right horse, as we did with Raven, as it were, you can ride out much nicer profits much sooner. So it's a balancing act, and we're never going to say to people, look, everyone that's investing should come and invest with us. Not at all.
So should people be nervous or conscious or aware of those sort of hyperbole adverts that they get saying, like, you will get 1,000% returns?
Anything that guarantees anything is just BS, full stop, blackout. Like,
because it's unregulated as well. Like, so if I was investing in property or I was investing in stocks and shares, like my financial advisor, shout out to Louis Williams, he has to say certain things to me.
Yes.
And legally he has to say them. Sometimes it's a ball, like he has to keep repeating the same shit to me.
So for example, your financial advisor could not legally advise you to get into crypto because it's a non-regulated asset class.
Yeah. Also even like, so he can't just say, I invest in this. So he makes you do like a questionnaire, you work out if you're an adventurous investor and all that kind of stuff. And then he comes up with a sort of plan based on your things. And then legally he has to say certain things. He has to tell you that you could enter zero.
Yeah.
Now, obviously crypto is unregulated, so I'm not saying you, I'm saying anyone in general doesn't have to give a disclosure or anything like that. Do you think people are aware? And this is how I look at this investment. I would say only invest into this what you are happy losing 100%. And I say the same with stocks and shares. And Gary Vee even said it about passive income. Passive income is what you should do is take a chunk of money that you are happy losing, and it could turn to zero.
Passive income looks like this. You take money that you can afford to go to zero, and you put them into two places that have historically created passive income. Public markets that you don't care if it goes up and down and you just wait to the end, or real estate.
Pretty much just any other sort of investment.
I would, in crypto in general, I completely agree with that. With crypto mining with top-end GPU, slightly different. So the zero is the second-hand value of your equipment.
Yeah.
So that's a good chunk of that. So to put it in perspective, one of your graphics cards now, you've got 6 in each machine.
Yeah.
One of them is still 500-600 quid each on eBay.
Yeah.
So that's a big. So the zero is quite high.
Yeah.
But that logic is that principle is a very fair one to assume.
So the farms and stuff, I'm guessing they're all called because I swear to God, if we had an HR department in our office, we wouldn't be allowed to come work. Jack's been walking around with his todger sticking out of one. Out of his shorts, trousers through the summer. It is absolutely fucking roasting in there.
So the GPU machines, they're not particularly noisy or offensive, but they do obviously give out a bit of warmth. So each one runs at about 1 kilowatt of electrical power, which, just the way that the machines operate probably kicks out between 400 to 500 watts of thermal energy. So yeah, I mean, obviously if you're in the office space, my offices are obviously quite warm. My guys here can attest to that. So that again, it's against the location thing, so it's probably best not to be sat on it.
If I've got some cash and you don't mind going to zero, I'd say like invest in it or whatever, it makes sense. But you're saying about, say, I'm comparing it to, say, property. I know I could always sell that house and get the money back. And like you said, 10 to 12 years. So since 1953, property's doubled every 11 years. That's like
standard.
And that's even including taking the recessions into account. So what's the time on these graphics cards and the machinery then? So in 3 years' time, how much would that $8,000 worth of machinery actually be worth?
So
and is there an optimum time to sell? I'm not going to mine for the rest of my life.
So it's an interesting point. So typically speaking, the life cycle from NVIDIA is generally 2.5 to 3 years per card cycle. So you guys have the 1080 Ti's. The 2080 came out, I think, January this year, just to kind of effectively nudge that forward a bit. So they're about 15% more powerful. Generally speaking, you're looking at around £900 for a 1080 Ti back in the day. Today on eBay, after potentially 3 years of use, the RRP stayed the same. You can still flog that on eBay for 500 to 600 quid, depending on the version now.
Yeah.
So they have quite they retain a good chunk of the value. It's not like they half 1 year, half the next year, and then they're 50 quid down the line. So ultimately, they might as you said, be a point where actually it might be better to sell the equipment. But in reality, the beauty of this stuff is because it's so powerful, is as new blockchain projects come out, there's always new coins to mine that effectively start at the beginning, as it were.
Yeah.
So providing that equipment is still very powerful, which it is because it's small incremental increases, realistically, our advice is generally, keep the equipment until that equipment dies a death, or there's something catastrophic that happens in the market. Because if the price of Bitcoin went to zero, it wouldn't necessarily directly affect the value of your cards because your cards are so high end that they're not the average cards people are using.
Yeah.
So the market wouldn't get flooded in the same capacity. So it's kind of a safety net, but the primary option would be to keep accumulating as many different coins as you wanted that made sense at the time. And then once that equipment got to...
So that should be our strategy now then?
Yeah, to keep mining, we can get you on other coins, mine a bit of this, mine a bit of that, kind of spread your eggs in different baskets and kind of keep just bagging things up. And then hopefully if we were to come back and have this conversation in 2 years' time, we can talk about some different numbers and see kind of how things have played out over time.
That's the hardest thing when actually having to describe how good or bad crypto mining's been as an investment.
Yeah.
Because there's part of me, some days I walk in, I just think, open the windows, number one. But number two, it's like, just get rid of them machines because it's like one day it goes up, next day it goes down, and it doesn't seem to be really getting into the initial investment. It doesn't seem to be making as much money as I thought or I hoped for. But then I don't know if that was because I was comparing it to the Bitcoin bull run and all these types of things. I don't know.
So it's really, I mean, what you have to think of is you've got this many coins, and at the moment, the multiple thousands of pounds that you've got, in the crypto space, it's perfectly realistic that those coins can do 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times.
Yeah.
So
if I didn't have my other investments, I think I'd turn them off and sell them. But luckily, I can absorb it at the moment, and I'm confidence, the wrong word. I'm willing to play the longer game. Do you know what I mean? That's how I feel about it this week.
And I think
subject to change.
What you say is, I think that's a perfectly fair point. And I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, you're wrong, you're an idiot, or whatever, because you've been in a 9-month period where the market's not done anything. It's fallen. It's a rubbish time for crypto in the last 9 months. If we were talking about this, if we met the year before and you were involved in that 2017 run, each one of your machines was making £1,500 profit a month. It was madness. So, I don't defend what the machines do or don't do because I cannot control the market.
Yeah, exactly.
All that we can do is provide customers with the most powerful equipment, with the best advice and the best service. And ultimately, it's people's, belief. So again, it's a longer term play. Like you would never look at a property that you've bought and go, I've spent 200 grand on a property and I'm earning 400 quid a month, and look at it in 9 months and go, oh, that was good.
Yeah, no, with property, I've always played, and so again, I was accused of being risk averse when it comes to property, but I always play the long game with property. I don't go in and try and flip properties and make as much money as I can straight away. I just literally go and get decent, good quality houses that don't need much work, and I hold on to them. So I'm really getting my returns in sort of 10 years time or 15 years time. That's my game for property.
This is a similar way you should think about crypto.
Right, okay.
Because the thing is as we've hopefully explained from a little bit today, is it's not about Bitcoin per se. It's about all this cool new stuff that's coming, and these machines are the fundamental horsepower behind it. I'm very confident to saying that if you mined a bag of different coins, and we had this conversation in 2, 3, 4 years, 5 time, we're going to have 1 or 2 of them which should have done exceptionally well. And ultimately, it'll just be another interesting thing,
And if not, will you buy the machines back off me?
Yeah, I'll get them. Yeah, absolutely.
We've seen that. Shake hands.
Shake hands.
So the next thing we've got here, it's we always do questions from LinkedIn, but we've got from Twitter and YouTube because obviously we did the trailer.
Yeah.
Give a shout out to some of the people. So we've got Grant on Twitter. He has said, "What is your thoughts on mining pools? Most of the schemes he's seen use the same get rich quick bullshit marketing techniques, similar to what we were talking about before, that we covered in the Entrepreneur video. So mining pools and getting you to invest in those things, good or bad?"
So let's separate this. A mining pool is actually a specific thing that isn't what he thinks it is.
So that's a group of people working together.
Yeah, so what I think he's alluding to there is cloud mining, where you can buy, as I said before, you can rent someone else's equipment.
Yeah.
So yeah, in that respect, as we said before, there's a lot of vulnerabilities and risks that come with that because you don't own anything, you don't have the same control, you just got a fixed power that's going to come less and less. Mining pools, again, are different, and this brings us to the point where a lot of these scams use correct words in an incorrect manner, and they'll talk about mining and hash power and pools, and they just confuse people that don't know a lot by using these words that are right in the complete wrong context. And that's
we spoke off example of camera, didn't we, about the one that get on Instagram all the time, crypto mining. They can't even spell it right.
And it, look, I am like to think a UK authority for cryptocurrency stuff. We do a lot of conferences, a lot of talks. I've got open offices. Anyone can come and see me in my offices. Anyone can come and meet the team, meet the tech stuff, see where stuff's built. We'll take you through everything. We don't have anything to hide.
That was the biggest difference. So because I'll be honest, I like to play with some of these people that get in touch with me on Instagram trying to sell me, into crypto and stuff like that. And I always ask them, where's your office is based? Where's your website? Show me your terms and conditions. And no one can. The best proof they send me is a screenshot of someone's Instagram post with like an emoji on. Like, that's
you
not
can do it
proof
too.
that your product works.
Anyone that guarantees anything in crypto, full stop ever, is talking out their ass. Yeah. That's it, black and white, end of discussion. There is no guaranteed this. There is no guaranteed that. It's the same way the stock market is variable and controlled, as are the price of coins. So anyone that says, give me this much, I'll guarantee to give you this much,
100%
it's nothing
fake.
More than an elaborate pyramid scheme where they're getting other people involved and, this automatic trade bot, and you put one Bitcoin in and it trades all your money in all the exchange and gets. It does not happen. It's
bullshit,
like that.
Isn't it?
And this is one of the things where, it really infuriates me because they use these, our new blockchain technology and our mining pool this and buy this mining package. And they use words that if you know a little bit, might seem like they know what they're talking about. But under that mask, they just, they've got no idea.
Another question. I've got Ragnarak on YouTube. And he's saying, is buying and holding Bitcoin for the long term better or investing upfront to mine Bitcoin?
A very interesting question.
So say if I had £150.
Yeah.
Would I be better off buying Bitcoin with
That's really where it comes down to. It comes down to personal circumstance. So it comes down to two main variables, really. So firstly, don't mine Bitcoin, mine the altcoins and convert to Bitcoin if you want to.
Okay.
So it's better. So doing the way that you're doing, effectively, it's better. So as it stands today, you can't mine profitably in the UK, full stop, done. End of story. Unless you're producing your own power.
And this is Bitcoin. You can't mine Bitcoin profitably.
As it stands today, that might change as people watch this. But as it stands today, with the best miners available, it's just not even worth doing. Whereas altcoin mining, because the equipment's more efficient and you can mine more coins, blah, 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 you're able to make a nice profit. So if you wanted to get Bitcoin, you can convert those coins to Bitcoin for a higher thing. So why spend this amount of money and get this little Bitcoin? We can spend this much money and get more altcoins and convert it. It's all about ROI, not which coin you're mining. That's a big takeaway perhaps from this, is people shouldn't be obsessed with a particular coin so much as what they can get back from that coin.
I would say that in property as well. Don't be obsessed with like property location, what it is. Always look at the
numbers.
The
ROI, the numbers. Exactly that. So the same goes for here. So in that gentleman's example, his personal circumstance. So if you don't have at least 10 grand, don't bother crypto mining. So if you've got less than that, your best approach is probably to buy some coins. So if you wanted to, get the most Bitcoin, it's probably sensible to split, say, 5 grand across 5 coins, one of them being Bitcoin, and the other coins, everything will kind of balance out and move a little bit. So over the probability of odds, that would probably be a better approach. So
just off the top of your head then, what would your 5 be then? So Bitcoin would be 1, Ravencoin I'd take.
Bitcoin, Ravencoin, Grin is a great coin at the moment. And then you've got things like Tron I'm a big fan of, EOS I'm a big fan of, Zcoin. I mean, there's some, things like BAT, Basic Attention Token, that's put together by the guys behind Mozilla Firefox for like an advert-free browser where the users get paid for watching the adverts. It's all very clever. So there's some really great projects out there. So, picking 5 is really hard. 10, if you threw, 100 quid at 10 different coins, come back at it a few years' time, you're going to probably be quite glad you did so.
Oh, that's good advice. So I've got David on Twitter. With crypto mining, you are literally competing with whatever the cheapest electricity in the world is. How do your customers come out ahead in the UK?
Yeah.
Do they, in fact? So it's 2 questions.
Yeah, again, so that's another big misconception because everyone has framed their understanding of crypto mining in chasing Bitcoin.
Right.
We do not mine Bitcoin. We do not chase Bitcoin. I love Bitcoin. Don't get me wrong. It's awesome. But it's not the most efficient way to earn the most coins. If you want Bitcoin, or you want the highest ROI, mine the smaller coins for less cost, less electric, more efficiency, less risk, more flexibility, and then convert that coin backwards if you so wish.
Last one, maybe. There might be 2 more. Roxana on Twitter. Some countries accept crypto mining as an industry, while its transactional value is banned. Can't be used as payment or investment. Iran, China, etc. What's your take on this? Why would they do that?
Yeah, so a lot of those countries are, more communist, let's say. So again, they're very precious about money flow in and out of the country.
Yeah.
And because there is no crypto bank, fundamentally, this is the interesting thing. Like, if the government said tomorrow Bitcoin is now illegal, that's all they could say. Like, they couldn't physically stop it happening.
Yeah.
In order to stop Bitcoin, you'd have to turn off every single machine in the world simultaneously.
Yeah.
And that's just not going to happen. So the reality of it is governments have to tread very carefully around this because they physically couldn't stop it if they wanted to. And that's what makes it really tricky for them, which is why we kind of see in this battle between commercial companies getting involved and other companies kind of just dragging their feet a little bit. So some countries like China have been a bit funny about it. Lots of mining goes on there, but they're funny about it moving out of the country, but they can't really stop it moving out of the country. So ultimately, a lot of people have kind of just put the brakes on it because they want to catch up to the speed that everything else is. So there was a period in that 2017 area where the market was running, where a lot of UK banks, said you can't use this for Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Just no arbitrary reason, they just decided to.
And that's it, really. That is our talk on cryptocurrency and crypto mining. Let us know in the comments whether you would invest in crypto mining equipment, whether you own any cryptocurrency, and if you have suffered any wins or losses. Thanks for listening.